right. But before we get to next Friday, we're already considering it football season around here. We are geared up. We are ready to go. And there's a part of the state in the Brazos Valley that is always on football season. And that's where we want to welcome in KBTX sports reporter Nicole Griffith. Nicole, how are you?
Hello, good. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well. Just, avoiding the heat, but staying inside.
That's a tough thing to do here.
I was fixing to say half the time it's even hot inside because it's so stinking hot outside.
Literally.
Which I'm sure is something that you've gotten used to now, considering, I guess, a congratulations is in order, considering you've basically been in College Station for 1 full year now.
Yes, I had my anniversary in July, my 1 year. So I don't know if I'm Texan yet, but I've been here a year. So,
considering you're covering Texas high school football, I think we can hand you like a loaner Texan card right now. We've got another year to vet you out here. But no, I think you got your Texas card when we brought you on last year and legitimately just shoved you into the fire and said, hey, you've only been there for about a week, but do you want to come on and talk Bryan College Station? Absolutely crushed it. So we wanted to give you a shot now, seeing how everything panned out last year, to join back on the show. So thank you for doing that. But let's start with that. Let's start back in last year and talk about the success that y'all had. I mean, from a state champion in Franklin to College Station being a state a state finalist. What was that ride like for you, following those programs all year long, and to see them make it to the holy grail that is AT&T Stadium?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was my first time. I helped cover the Franklin State Tournament game. So I want to give a shout out to Morgan Weaver, our sports reporter. She kind of is on the Franklin beat. They love her up there, and they love KBTX, and we love them back. And going up there and helping her cover Franklin, it's awesome. Just seeing Franklin, they didn't lose a game. They went back to back. They moved up a class. So, they're just as dominant. I saw Mark Fannin in his 3 years has only lost 3 games.
Sheesh.
And so, people really want to, Franklin's a powerhouse right now, and they've got a target on their back. But they're not shoe-ins any year. They'll say that, but it's awesome to see just how dominant they can be from going to 2A to 3A. And College Station, I know they feel like they came up short, going back to the title game and not quite getting it done. But they're just as hungry, and Stony Pryor's leading the ship over there, and they'll just kind of. I don't think they need to rebuild. It's just kind of a reload year because they're so used to getting back there. So, and also I covered Burton. They made it. They lost to Mart in the playoffs, and they were in the Final Four. They were 1 win away from getting to the state championship. So, we've got a lot of hungry teams down here and a lot of success.
Now, there's no shortage of ranked teams down there in the Brazos Valley. Like you said, Franklin, College Station, all looking to repeat what they did last year. I'm curious, what's a team down there that you're excited to see that might not be ranked in the preseason but is expected to do pretty well this year?
Yeah, I would say Bryan. They're the lone 6A team here. Bryan High, the Vikings. They were kind of my beat last year, and I'll be back on covering their season opener on the road. So I would they're hungry. They kind of got a little bit of a taste. It's their second season under Ricky Tullis, and so it's always kind of nicer. The first season is. You're learning new culture and how coaches like to do things and new terminology. And now it's the second year, and they've got their quarterback, Malcolm Gooden, back, and they have Tyson Turner, who's a Texas State commit, Texas Tech commit. Hopefully he's not listening here. Hopefully he is listening, but sorry, Tyson. But, they've got great talent, young, great talent on that team. And so that's, and they're just 2 minutes up the road from our station. So I'm hoping that and expecting them to do well this year.
Man, you mentioned something there, too, with Tullis obviously being at Bryan, now going into his second year. And that seems to be a big trend down there in the Bryan College Station area with Stony Pryor and then Danny Young's over there at Brenham. A lot of new talent in the coaching world that seems to have had such a big impact right from the bat. What have you noticed about, last year, those being first year kind of following these teams right now, gearing up for the season, do you notice any sort of a confidence level that seems to be there from these teams, knowing they have the offseason under their belt, knowing they have a season under their belt? Are you noticing that down there?
Oh, for sure. We do high school, like kind of like a high school media day. And we have 20, 27, 28 high schools come in a 4-hour span. So, we're talking to 4 to 8 players plus the coaches on each team. So there's about, 80, 90 players that we're talking to. And you can just tell, like, teams that are really hungry, that they they're like, we know what our coaches want from us. We know how practice goes, how their terminology goes, what their flow is like. And they're just really hungry to, maybe they had a rough, when you have your first year under a coach and you have like a rough pre-district, but then you kind of figure it out by district or vice versa. You're okay in the pre-district, but then district comes up and it's a little harder than you were expecting. And so you can just tell, like, a lot of these teams, they know what to expect now, and they're hungry for the high school the media day was, a couple weeks ago. So they're like, we have a month until the season, and now it's next Friday. And so I know these kids young men are excited to get out there on the field.
Something that I'm curious about from your perspective, I'm going to talk about college for a second, but it relates back to high school. Obviously, when you're talking about Texas A&M and the SEC as a whole, you're starting to see that, the high-flying offenses that people are using and everything like that. But what it's funny to me as you look in the high school ranks of what the BCS area has to offer, and it is some exceptional running backs, from Jaden Jackson over there at Franklin to Aiden Martinez-Brown at College Station. I mean, the list goes on and on of these like true powerhouse running backs. Run the damn ball is always a real big thing in the state of Texas. Yeah. What do you have to say about the true talent at running back that your area down there in the Brazos Valley has?
Well, I mean, it really helps when you have an SEC program, in your backyard. And so they don't have to go far to recruit. And, you've got Houston and Dallas and San Antonio and Austin, not far away. So if, like, these athletes, like, they can write their ticket if they put in the work. And so you can see that they're hungry. For running back, is not featured in 7-on-7, but when I covered 7-on-7 this summer, you're like, this kid has a Texas offer, this kid has an Arizona offer, this kid has 4 offers to do, and this kid has 8 offers to do. It's like, the talent is strong down here, and they just have to be able to put in the work, and the coaches will find you, and they know that.
There's no doubt that there is a ton of talent, especially in the running back position on the offensive side of the ball. But let's switch over to the defense, because a lot of these teams really stood out to me last season with strong defenses. Like, example, Brenham. I think their defense is going to be really, really stout this year. What are some of those defensive players that you're going to keep your eye on coming into this season?
Yeah, I literally have Brenham starred on my little cheat sheet here for defense, because Danny Young's is a lot of you notice in a lot of coaches, like, they're offensive minded, but I noticed when I went to a Brenham game, Danny Young's, he's way on the other side. He's just letting the offense cook, and, he calls the defense. So that's really inspiring to kind of, eye-opening. I love the defensive side of the ball and watching that. As far as players, oh man, it's across the board. I always refer back to Brian. I know they're very hungry. Like, they have a lot of two-way players. And so it's just there's so many players. It's like, where do you even begin picking?
When you were there for a year, there's some good rivalry games down there. I guess a 2-part question here. Was there a game last year that you just absolutely enjoyed that really stuck out to you? And heading into the 2023 season, what game do you have circled on your calendar?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting last year was my first year. And so playoff games, we always had to travel to like neutral sites. That was new to me. They didn't do that in Nebraska. They didn't do that in South Dakota. So one of the games that really stood out to me was the Burton Mart game out in, I think it was like it was up around the Austin area.
Yeah, Round Rock probably, I think is where it was.
Yep, that Martin game. And Burton was just rolling over teams. They were 13-0, but they kind of met their match in March. But I just remember high school football is so big down here, but even when it becomes like late deep run playoff games, like that's when things really start to matter, and any kind of mistakes, there's no room for mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the games that really stood out to me, even though they lost. But I remember that being like, this is the real deal here in the last round of the playoffs before the state game.
There's nothing like Texas high school football, and there's definitely nothing like Texas high school football playoffs. So glad you got to experience that. No doubt you're going to get to experience it this year. One final question there for you, Nicole, and I don't think we were able to ask you this last year, but we now can ask you this year. We love to know when we're down in College Station, because it seems like we end up down there probably 2 to 3 times a year. Where should we go eat at?
Oh my gosh, yeah. The Mexican food down here, the Tex-Mex is great. I catch myself going to Chewy's a lot, and I'm going to Gringos. So I don't know if you guys maybe you have Gringos. I know it's a chain, but they're always busy. Chewy's does the best like chips and salsa I've ever had. They have like a jalapeno ranch salsa. So I tried to make it on my own. That's how much I like it. So I had a whole bowl of this jalapeno ranch salsa that I tried to eat by myself. So
have you been
next time you're down, we'll try to make it. We'll try to go there.
Have you been to Cilantro's? It's a Mexican restaurant, and I think it's in Bryan.
It's in Bryan, downtown Bryan. We went to one's called Cilantro's.
Last
Mallory
year at
found it.
7.
I have been there.
Phenomenal. What are your thoughts?
It was great. People said, you want to find like the real authentic like Mexican food, and people were saying like Cilantro's is the best best Mexican you'll have. And so I went there. I think I got I don't even remember what I got. That's how bad it is. But I remember it being really good. And the margaritas, obviously, you got to get a margarita.
Correct.
It's fantastic.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
There she goes. It is Nicole Griffith from KBTX there in Bryan College Station. Nicole, thank you so much for hopping on. We're glad that we were able to give you more time to prepare like as a whole season. But we look forward to hopefully crossing paths with you later this year.
Yes, and then come next year, I'll have even more knowledge.
Yes, ma'am.